Thank you for watching. I'm here with Fiona Scott, who is a Liberal member for Lindsay, the Labor member for Chifley. They're next door electorates. There we go. In Western Sydney is Ed Husick. Ross Cameron joins us along with Janine Perrott. And Sports Night is up in a couple of minutes' time. Get well, Bracey. He's at Crook with chronic man flu, conveniently after 2 weeks of a giant junket over in Russia. Don't want to connect the two, but still good luck to him.
You jest. Man flu is a serious affliction.
Yes. More money in the budget, please. Now, let's quickly address Sydney's second airport here. Ross, I'm going to go to you here first. Do you, succinctly here, do you believe there should be a second airport? And secondly, why should anyone watching outside of Sydney or Sydney's West give a stuff about this decision?
Well, I'm nearly always in favour of saying yes to hard infrastructure decisions. On this occasion, I remain sceptical. I think it's one thing to plonk a new asset into a region under a rationale of growth and jobs, but it's another thing to fund the road and rail infrastructure requirements to allow that asset to function in a way that doesn't do significant damage to the communities around it.
Yeah, I mean, this is my thing here. I mean, Ed, we've spoken about it before. You're not in favour of it. I'm sceptical as well, simply because the idea that there are lots of things you can do, and we'll get into those in a second. But Fiona, part of it, depending on which way things go, Penrith, your part of the world, would actually cop noise and 24 hours of it. Where do you sit on it?
I think it's a very complex issue, and I agree with everything that Ross Cameron just said. I think when you look at our electorates, which are neighbouring, 2/3 of my workforce have to commute every day to the city. That's an hour and a half each way. Ed has one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. And what we need in Western Sydney is definitely circuit breaker infrastructure that is actually going to create structural change in our economy. So when Ross was talking about the road and the infrastructure that's needed there, I mean, you can dump tarmac in a cow paddock, which essentially what it would be, but not connected to anything, and it doesn't necessarily... For me, there's a lot more that needs to be known about that, and like Ross, I'm quite sceptical about it.
So what happens when you try to pipe up and say, hang on, there's a bit more to this, when inevitably, you know, there's a newspaper in Sydney that's screaming for it, there's a lot of people, a lot of interests that are behind it. What happens when you stand up in the party room and go, I don't know about all of this? How do you convince somebody in Queensland, an MP in Queensland, that this is a dicey issue, because there are, you know, a couple of million people who are about to hear planes who currently don't? Well,
all due respect to my colleagues, they're actually pretty good at asking questions, and I'm pretty good at shackling them. So I mean, I think it's, you know, and I'm not backwards in coming forward with that. So, look, I think it's a matter of Western Sydney does need infrastructure. I mean, I believe in Western Sydney. I think we're an amazing area that has the ability to really strive forward, but we actually need infrastructure that's going to be delivered, that has a financial model to deliver it. It needs to be a master plan that is not pushed on the people from Western Sydney, that people live east of Parramatta. It has to be owned and driven by the people of Western Sydney.
Absolutely. There's so much in all of that. And Janine, we'll get into your view in a second here, but not as a representative of that group, but just I want to ask Ed a question here, which is, you know, Ed, my question about the second airport, and there's so many interests that are pushing it, and just like, say, free trade with China or South Korea, when there's this lovely mix between the media, big end of business, and political people who start to say, oh, it's a great idea, that's when I start, my cat whiskers go, hang on, something might be weird here. It seems to me that there's this strange logic that suggests if we drop an airport, you know, that's the champagne, great, and there'll be thousands of jobs, but the hangover is 24 hours of bloody noise.
Yeah, exactly. And to actually address something that you said earlier, you know, why should this interest anyone out of Sydney? Two things. First is, you know, I make the argument, you know, why are we talking about a second airport when we're not looking at the actual imposition of government controls, the efficiency of our existing infrastructure at Sydney Airport, point one. Yep. And two, if people are saying, oh, we need to build a second airport, not even taking into account that point I made, this will be billions of dollars that'll be put here at a time where government's telling us they don't have money to spend. And if you're outside of Sydney and you're not getting infrastructure projects, but you're seeing this put in when there are questions about how to make Sydney more efficient, then you should be asking questions. And the point you made about the 24 hours operation, you simply cannot, even if we were to get down the path where we were seriously considering this, how can you have a set of conditions that protect one side of the city and not have them presented for the other side.
Correct.
It's just not right.
No, I agree. If you can't cop the noise around the city in the middle of the night, nor should the people in the West. Well, that's just at least us three Westies think that. Janine, you have heard some scepticism, some outright opposition. Get into it.
A load of ill-informed, self-serving rubbish in all my life, dressed up in corporate speak. Okay, not in my backyard, Western Sydney MPs, we know how you feel. This isn't an infrastructure project, it's an economic necessity. We're not a third world country with one little airport. It's about meeting demand.
How are we
and
a
it will
third
help
world airport
the entire
now?
country. The infrastructure's just a little bonus for your area on it. It cannot sustain on all models except for Max Moore-Wilton's one to protect his own franchise on every economic model and every business person you talk to and the tourists we've got to get and the Australians who want to hop on planes. Fact is, they all come into Sydney. There's freight, there's passengers. It's necessary. It's got to be done. We've put it off far too long. It's got to go. Get over
All right, let the
Well, I was just
push
going to
back.
say, yeah, it's always, whenever Western Sydney reacts to this, we get this type of comment that Janine, as much as I love her, I've had business people say, oh, you're so NIMBY. And I go, no, fair point. We should get rid of the curfew, but I live under the flight path. So,
Bang,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So the Western Sydney's being NIMBY, but the East, you know, they obviously have their approach.
No, we
Fiona, last
have
word.
noisy freeways there. Those nasty traffic and trucks bringing all the goods that you want to buy. We don't say, oh no, let's not build any freeways. They're so noisy. Don't be ridiculous.
God love you. Fiona, last one.
Look, I have to say, one thing I do like about this debate is that it's good that we're talking about innovation in Western Sydney, and I think that's a good thing. And I think when we look at my electorate, for instance, we're going to build a Canberra to the north, a Canberra to the south. There's, you know, we have some congested east-west transport, but we need to look at the north-south. We need to connect all the business communities in between. And you know what? The answer is actually coming for a master plan for Western Sydney, and that's where I think we need to start from.
Damn, I thought you were going to say monorail.
Oh, no, you can keep that one.
Oh, can we bring that back?
No, God, it's gone. Ta-da.
At least
ta-da.
it was quiet.
Listen to you, Nene, I love you. Now, by the way, I'm going to get only Janine's opinion on this because we need to mend the bridge that I've just burnt here between us. What about these idiots? Okay, when the last mob were in, they wanted to put in a traffic light system to tell us what food was good for us and what food was bad for us. And then there was a new system that was proposed, which was a 5-star rating, similar to your fridge. But could we all please agree that if you think that twisties grow on trees, you're an idiot. You don't need 5 stars, 1 star, no star to tell you what food's good for you and bad for you. Janine, should this government push on with any sort of special labelling like that?
No, look, I'm not into it. I know it's a bit nanny state. If people want to look at it, we do have to deal with the problem of obesity. That would have been another debate. They handled this so badly, that's where it goes. But I mean, basically, it's already on the back. Fat content, sugar content, kilojoules. There's a lot there if you bother to read it. But you really should only read Made in Australia would be a big help to start with. But
Correct, bloody oath. But take this from a fat bloke who only has himself to blame for being fat. If it's in a packet, it's probably not going to be fantastic for you. All right, it's generally the way that it works. Finally here, just something to put Ed out the door with a smile on his face. Football Federation Australia, well done to you for coming up with the idea which would be an FA Cup for Australia. There would be 10 A-League teams and about 15 teams from outside of the region. Smaller joints would be able to play big league football. This is the best idea since the A-League, and I reckon slightly better, Ed.
Absolutely.
It's a bloody fantastic idea.
I think it's been fantastic to see, as you know, we've spoken about previously, the A-League going from strength to strength, and we're both very proud supporters of the Wanderers, despite our political differences.
Probably the only thing we do agree on.
Well,
That and increasingly the airport. I won't get you into
and
trouble.
I think it's good
All
that we
right.
get, and we can also work in within the region and get talent because it's followed very strongly within the region.
It's a great idea. Rugby League and the AFL have missed out hugely on this. To Ross, to Janine, to Ed and to Fiona, one and all, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Follow me on Twitter and keep going with the hate because I won't see it for a day. @PM on air. Ta-da.